lights on the screen, hey, it's Grant and Ryan. We bleed purple, talking hoops, never lying. Sacramento Kings, we rise and we fall. If you don't like that, then you don't know ball. Jerry sitting with the stories of the game, spilling all the truth, driving legends insane. From the Cow Palace days to Arco's roar, this town's heart beats on the hardwood floor. If you don't like that, turn away now. Kings in our blood, we rise strong and proud. Running up the score, Kings never back down. If you don't like that, this ain't your town.
Hey everybody, the final score 104-88, a pathetic performance for the Sacramento Kings tonight. Absolutely pathetic. They lost the game in the first quarter. The second quarter was not any better, but they lost the game in the first quarter. They weren't ready to play. They had no cohesion. They couldn't do anything. Listen, I'm not blaming Kevin Huerter for the loss, but he needs to be taken out of the starting lineup. He's not doing anything. You cannot have your two-guard play 29 minutes and have a goose egg. Keegan Murray had a better second half, but I'm sorry, it's not good enough for me. He was invisible in the first half. But Ryan, I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk about this. And I understand that Malik Monk is still out, but the bench for Mike Brown on too many nights is doing zero, nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you had to pull the Colby Jones alarm tonight. And granted, he played okay because he's been playing well in Stockton. But Grant, 39-9 in bench scoring tonight.
Exactly.
And by the way, the Clippers, Grant, last time I checked, are they missing their two best players?
Yes, they are missing their two best players in Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell. Norman Powell, by the way, is this year's leading scorer, and he did not play. And yet they still destroy Sacramento. Oh, and by the way, the Kings had 3 days off to rest and get ready, and they had Sabonis and DeRozan back, and they play like this. This is an embarrassment. There's no other way to say it. This was an embarrassing loss. And now, guess what? Your Kings aren't even a top 10 team in the West. They are 8-8. And guess what else is next? You have a back-to-back at home with Brooklyn, and then there's a team called Oklahoma City that you play the very next night. Good luck.
Yeah, I get 11 games in 18 days in the month of November is tough. But, Grant, I'm looking at the last 5. Right? Minnesota, Utah, San Antonio, Atlanta, Phoenix. Is this a 500 team?
Ryan, the Kings have some issues right now, and there are several issues, and I'm going to keep on going back to this. Their biggest issue to me is their bench. Okay. Yeah. Now, I know the starters didn't have it tonight, but their biggest issue to me on this team is the bench. And I'm mindful that you're playing right now without Malik Monk, and I know he's a big part of it. But I also know that when Monk was healthy, the bench still wasn't doing anything.
Grant, I guess the troubling thing for me is it's the same story. You know, like we've had, if you picked up a newspaper from a year ago and you looked at the box score, what you see tonight is pretty much exactly the same. 2 starters that don't really do much.
Yep.
You get a decent or an okay night from the bench or a bad night like tonight. And so at what point do you reshuffle the deck? At what point do you look at things differently? And you got to look at Coach Brown right there, Grant, with some of the things you're talking about.
And here's something else if you want to add on to the list of uh-ohs. You haven't played any games yet with the top 6 teams in the NBA. You haven't had games yet with Cleveland, 15-1, Boston 13-3, and the Knicks, who are 3rd in the East. You haven't had any games with the Warriors, who were 12-3. Oklahoma City, you'll play in a couple of nights. They're 12-4, and you haven't played the Rockets yet, that are 12-5. So on top of everything else, not only are you 500, but you've had a relatively easy schedule that's going to change here in the near future.
Yep, it's only going to get more difficult from here. And the grind, Grant, as you go further into the season, less time off, 3 days off. I guess, Grant, urgency doesn't seem to be an important word in this building, or it doesn't reflect in their play consistently.
Well, I know this. You have an owner right now, this second. He's on the phone or he's with Monty McNair and he's in his ear. Okay. And it's not pleasant for Monty McNair right now. and I know what's going on. And this thing better get turned around in a hurry, or it's not going to be a happy holiday.
Yeah. What's the route to turning it around? I mean, I guess you have to get to a place. If you're Mike Brown with what you have right now, you got to make some adjustments to get to a place where you can possibly turn it around to a degree to make a big enough change because,
Yeah.
you're not looking over your shoulder. If you're anybody getting minutes on this team,
No.
you can make the same mistakes over and over. I mean, Grant Domas tonight, and for the most part this season, has been sloppy with the
Yes.
basketball. He has not made turnovers like he's made this season, 6 tonight. Something's just not firing. And the fact, Grant, and I'll kick this back to you, De'Aaron Fox can come out in the third quarter and get whatever he wants. The spacing's right then. Every Kings fan says this. Why can't we come out of the gates like that? It's like not until you're down 20 do you
I'll
finally
tell you
get
why.
here.
Because you don't have the right players on the floor. That's why.
Mm,
I'm
preach.
sorry. You have to change the starting lineup. You just do. I'm sorry, but you have to.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. We want to hear from all of you tonight. Use the QR code on the screen. You can also use the link that's in the chat. We will keep populating that as the show goes on. We'll get to your chats as well. Super chats definitely get priority. Let's go to Schmitty. Schmitty, welcome on tonight. You're with Grant and Ryno.
Hi, guys. Just a frustrating loss altogether. Francisco Garcia, turn it over in his grave. Kevin Martin, turn it over in his grave. DeMarcus
Whoa,
Cousins,
whoa, whoa,
turn
whoa.
it over.
Stop. 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 Stop.
Yeah.
Okay? No one's turning over in their grave that's still alive. Stop. Stop. No, you know what? It's not funny.
Way to go, Schmitty, idiot. Mike Dizzle, thank you so much, Mikey, for the super chat. I hate that we're blaming Monty instead of Mike Brown. Herter should have been coming off the bench with Keon starting since day one. Grant, Jerry has been saying that all along. That's been my stance, and seems like you're there as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of issues going on right now. And the biggest issue is that you played a decent number of games to get a pretty good read on this team. And we're seeing the same thing too many times.
Yep.
And it's alarming. And we keep on talking about the West. All of a sudden, Dallas has found themselves. They won again tonight. They beat Denver
Without
in
Luka.
Denver. So now the Mavs have won 4 games in a row. They're 9-7. And guess who now is in 12th place in the Western Conference?
Your Sacramento Kings.
That's correct.
You were outside
the Kings are 12th in the West. 12th.
You were outside of the play-in coming into the game, tied with Minnesota. Minnesota had the tiebreaker. I guess the other alarming thing for me tonight, Grant, is the Clippers did not do anything special. They just took what the Kings gave them.
Correct. I don't think the Clippers played that well tonight.
No. There was sloppy play from the Kings from the get-go. The Kings had their stretches, but when you get back-to-back field goals in your second and third shots of the game, and then you don't get back-to-back field goals until 4 minutes into the second quarter, regardless of this being a 3-point shooting league, that's a tough thing to come back from, Grant.
Oh, man. Hey, don't forget that I am looking for some rant ideas that I will be doing here in a couple of minutes. So it is a rant with Grant. Give me your ideas on the chat line, and I'll give you my rant coming up in a couple of minutes. And there is a lot to rant on based on what we just watched this evening. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Definitely plenty to rant on. Charlie, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. Grant and I very much appreciate that. Keegan Murray continues to concern me as the season drags on. Do you guys feel the same? Grant?
Big time. I've been talking about Keegan Murray for a couple of weeks now. I'd be very concerned because this is supposed to be his elevation year in his third year. This is where you now have your feet completely wet as an NBA player. And I expected a much bigger jump in his game this year, and he's regressed. He hasn't moved forward. He's regressed. So, yes, I am concerned. Absolutely, I'm concerned.
I was not concerned about him between the years until tonight. Tonight, he looked discouraged. Tonight, he passed up open shots for worse shots, something that's been a trend. Mike talked about it after practice a couple of days ago. But when that starts going on, even though he found a little bit of flow in that second half and in the fourth quarter, yeah, it's something you got to look at. Jay, welcome in tonight. You're on with Grant
Hey,
Ryno.
Jay,
What's going on?
what do you want to say about your championship team, Jay?
You know what,
Sorry,
Grant?
buddy, I couldn't resist.
I know. No, and you know what? I was thinking this was eventually going to get brought up again, and I'm glad you did because I was thinking to myself, dang, Grant is right. And it's not very often that I think Grant is right, and I'm just playing. But yeah, tonight was terrible. 29 points at the half. That is embarrassing, and that is pathetic. You couldn't have said it any better earlier when you started the show. That is, I get an off night, but 29 points in the first half has a team that has, DeRozan and Fox, who just scored 109 points. That's just unacceptable. Now, I'm not putting the blame on either one of those. Everybody, missed a lot of shots tonight. I actually had to turn the game over after, I think it was fourth quarter, about 4 minutes left. I think they let Porter Jr. or whatever his name is get a backdoor cut on a fast break, and that was just it. For me, I had to. It was a tough game to watch, and throughout the whole game, you could sense some. They're trying to cut the lead down, but for some reason they can't get past that 10-point barrier. Like they can't keep the run going, and so you have to question yourself. Fox is going to be gassed. Sabonis is going to be gassed. DeRozan's going to be gassed if they're running up and down the floor. You start looking at that bench. To your point, and I actually really noticed it tonight. Going down the stat line, everybody's plus and minus was in a negative tonight. Everybody's.
Yeah.
There is no bench, and Monk plays. I don't know if that makes a difference. Maybe it does. Maybe he does. Get us some points to bring energy back into the first half or whatnot. But like we've talked about this, and I think it goes. I don't want to single any player out because it was. Fox smoking layups left and right. I don't understand what. Apparently, you get paid so much money to miss layups. Sabonis was missing layups. You getting paid $44 million, and you're missing right-handed layups. It's embarrassing. It was terrible. I'm sorry. I'm ranting. This is Grant's rant, but I'm just keep going on and on. It's tough to watch. Obviously this isn't the Kings though. We know they're a better team. There's going to be off games. Sure, chalk this one up. This one is very embarrassing though, and I hope it sits with them. And back to the bench situation, I'm seriously considering not only moving Kevin Huerter to the bench, but I wanted to give him a chance this season. And Ryno, to your point, I was looking at his stats. He's done fairly well from a season perspective, but I think it's time that we look into something else that we can work around with Kevin Huerter. And, see, we got to get something different. And Keon Ellis, phenomenal player. He's not the answer. He's a short-term answer for a starter, but he's not the guy that we need in the long-term starting. So that's why we need to start looking elsewhere for Kevin Huerter's spot. That's pretty much it.
Charles, thank you for the super chat, by the way. Grant, you got a rant idea. James Harden's play style. I kind of like that. That's pretty good. Not going to lie. Good job by you, Charles. Jay, really quick. I think Kevin Huerter to the second unit makes all the sense in the world for multiple reasons. Keon's never been the answer. Maybe the style of a guard like Keon could be the answer. Defensive, doesn't need a big commitment from the offensive game plan, but can hit the open three. But let's call a spade a spade. Malik Monk has not played particularly great this year either.
No.
No, I agree. And that's the thing about this team is we have a player on this bench who's fully capable of starting. And at some point, you might just have to pull the trigger if it's not working for Huerter. Like I said, Keon isn't going to be a long-term solution. The best bet is a veteran. I guess you can call him a veteran now. Malik Monk, he's been in the league for a while. He's progressed. This season, it's been a little off. Whatever. I would still, at the end of the day, you're going to put Monk over Huerter in the fourth quarter. So it's, you know who's the better player, clearly.
Yes.
But in my opinion, I would be looking for, like we've talked about before, kind of like a stretch four, a 3-and-D, but at the power forward, and just slide DeRozan up to the 2. And then you put Keegan at the 3. And your point, Grant, the Keegan thing, like I have a lot more grace for him not because I'm a huge Keegan fan. You know, he's a great guy, whatnot, but because it is early on in his career. You look at Kevin Huerter, it's like you're throwing goose eggs. You've been in the league since 2018. Keegan, you
Yeah,
know,
but it's early in his career, but it's not really early because of the amount of games that he has started and the amount
that's
of
true.
minutes that he's played and his age. So, you know, you got to be careful when you
Yes.
analyze these type of age stats, everything. You know, everyone's different. He's not, by playing experience, Jay, he's more of a seasoned
Yes.
player now than a
Yes.
young player.
Yeah, you're right. He started a lot of games.
Yep.
He's got a lot of minutes, and when you get drafted older, you got to be ready sooner. You got to be ready now because you're skipping those 4 years of development if you get drafted at 18.
Yeah, and most times they are. I mean, Keegan has been ready. I just think if we're going to continue this conversation about Keegan Murray, guys, you almost need to have a hand-in-hand conversation about Mike Brown. The kid needs more structure. Period. End of story. If it wasn't for his defense, I would have him coming off the bench.
Then maybe he's on the wrong team.
You know, that's a
You're not going
question.
to get that on this team, Ryan, right? Is he? How's Ryan? Help me out here because you make a fabulous point. How's he going to get structure on this team?
Well, you're not. And that's where you have the conversation. Is this system that Mike Brown doesn't want to tweak? He said in the 3 days off, they didn't implement anything new, regardless of seeing what De'Aaron did on his own with the floor spread out. Nothing new. Then you're not going to find the middle ground. It's one or the other. The system's not changing.
And how did they let it fly approach go tonight? 7 of 35 were the Kings in Mike Brown's let it fly approach. And they don't take enough mid-range shots, enough 2-point shots, but let it fly, let it fly. I hate when he says that. Do not let it fly. There are too many times, in my opinion, when the Kings are not taking the right shot at the right time. I'm going to phrase it that way.
Great.
There's just too many times. They're just not.
You know, and it's what do you do? Because I know we're not a win now team, but you know, Ryno, like you said, getting DeRozan is like compete now at least, right?
Well, they're a win now.
They're a win now. No, they are.
But that's so. What do you do? Because you know, I mean, obviously they want to draft players that are older. Look at Keegan. Look at Devin Carter. I understand that, but it's like okay, you see what you're getting out of Kevin Huerter, and then you see what is coming off the bench. You know, and Monk is kind of streaky. You know, he's a 25-point player or he's a 12-point player. You know, what do you do in this situation? Do you let it keep going until the end of the season again, or do you look into?
I think Jay
and Mike Brown is locked in, so it's like you're gonna owe this guy $10 million if you fire him or not. So
okay,
why
Jay,
would you fire him? Sorry,
so here's the thing. You know, you're good. I'm going to give you the 3 principles, both of you guys. The 3 things that were the core of what they're going to do this season that they worked on in training camp. Number 1, pace. They wanted to be in the top 5. They're middle of the pack. Number 2, get to the corners. Guess what? The Kings have shot the 3 ball from the corners really well, almost right around between 40 and 50%. The problem is they have under 100 attempts from the corners. Third thing, offensive rebounding. They're 27th in the league. So you don't have the players to fit the principles that you are running. So where do you meet in the middle? Or you get different players, guys.
Yeah, to your point, like you said, it's the let it fly mentality. Well, you need shooters. You need guys who can shoot the ball very well.
All right, thank you again for the super chat donation. Why does Mike Brown play Keegan out of position? Keegan is being played wrong. He's a natural rim attacker, not Reggie Miller. We've talked a lot about his position. You know, Jerry thinks that he is better at a 3 than a 4, and we've talked about that. And I just, you look at the roster, I'm not really sure what you do other than having him come off the bench. I really don't know how you solve this. But here's what I will say, guys. And I know it's not Thanksgiving yet, and I'm well aware that there are a lot of games left. Sacramento right now, okay, is one bad stretch from being in a very, very difficult position for making the playoffs this year because of their upcoming schedule. All right, that's number 1. Number 2, you can't count on Fox playing 82 because he's never done it before. He is going to miss some games. I'm not rooting for him to miss games, but I got to be realistic. He's going to end up missing some games, and I don't know how the Kings win a game without De'Aaron Fox right now. I really don't.
You're spot on, by the way. And he's playing great basketball. He played really well tonight. He had
Yep.
7 assists, 7 3-point attempts. He's the reason they came back in the third quarter. Grant, Jay, maybe the answer is this. You take the ball out of Sabonis's hands every time down the court and you put it in De'Aaron's.
You know what? I really love that idea because, as you guys mentioned earlier, Domas, we love Domas. Too many turnovers tonight, and like I said,
Yep.
guys we love him. $45 million to miss right-hand layups. I mean, he was smoking them all night. I mean, you're a professional, man. Come on, you got to. If Zubac is that good of a defender, we probably should go after him because you know what I mean.
Yeah, I understand.
And,
Yeah,
Hey, Jay, we're going to roll, man. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And I want to take care of a little business before we get to some more of the calls. We certainly appreciate everyone joining here. And don't forget, your Thanksgiving can be outstanding at Bennett's, Sacramento, Roseville, the West Side Grill, 11 in the morning to 7 in the evening. They will be serving Thanksgiving meals. It is awesome at Bennett's. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com. Here's another option. You don't want to do all the work? Let Bennett's do all the work and pick up your food. That's right. Pick up your Thanksgiving dinners and take them home. Easy to do. bennettsrestaurants.com. That's bennettsrestaurants.com to make your reservation for Thanksgiving. Don't forget about New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. They are available around the clock 24/7 for your plumbing needs and repairs. Remember, just go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. No fix for the Kings, though. I've been saying that too often this year.
You know what? Spot freaking on. Spot on, Napes. Guru, what's up, brother?
How you guys doing?
Hey there.
We're not going to win a lot of games if we're scoring 12 points in quarters, number one. That's just number one. Number two, we're not going to win a lot of games if we're the bottom 3-point shooting team in the league. It's just not going to happen. If we're trying to get the pace, if we're trying to do all this scoring, go fast, and we're going to miss all our threes, it's not going to happen. If I asked you before the season who's going to lead us in 3-point percentage, would you guys have said Sabonis and DeMar? Because that's what it is pretty much right now.
Yep. Good job, Ian.
We got what? Monk is around 30, Keegan's around 30, Herder's around 30, and that's just not going to win games. And the minutes, again, you guys have brought it up a bunch of times. I mean, a lot of these points you guys have brought up as well. But the minutes, again, everyone's getting the top 3 players are getting 40 again. It's just not going to be sustainable for the long run. I mean,
nope, it's not. Fox played 43, Murray and Sabonis played 40. You're 100% correct. It's not sustainable. But again, Mike Brown is in a very difficult position because his bench sucks.
Right. I agree. And I know you guys want Fox to run the ball in the fast break a little bit more than Sabonis. I get that. But he can't do everything. If we're going to even give the ball more to Fox, tire him out even more, he's going to play 45 minutes. I don't know. I think it's just going to be, it's got to be making the shooting better, and it's got to be the bench. I know Mike Brown is getting a lot of heat right now, but I think Monty does deserve a lot of heat right now because he's in charge of making our bench decent, and he hasn't done anything about that.
Well, you got Jordy Fernandez coming in, who knows Fox in this game. I got to believe that the Nets, even though they're struggling at 6 and 10, are going to have a very good defensive game plan against Sacramento on Sunday night. And then the next night you play Oklahoma City, and then you got to go on the road. You got Minnesota. I mean, I'm looking at the schedule right now, and I'm looking at what's happened. And I'm looking at tonight, and I don't have a very good feeling right now. I think this team could be in real trouble.
Yep.
Yeah,
Portland playing good basketball.
Yes, they are.
Every team in the West. I mean, there's only one bad team in the West to me, and that's Utah. It's literally the only bad team.
That's right.
Pelicans are going to come back. They'll be all right. Or they're going to win more games. And even
Portland, they're going to when the Kings get there in February and they play 3 times in 10 days.
They'll be healthy.
The Pelicans might be at full strength. So I mean, we talk about luck, unlucky. I mean, right now the Kings got to figure out their own roster and figure out how to be more in sync, more cohesive, and play better. And I think Mike Brown's got to coach better. I'm sorry. I think Mike Brown's got to figure this out. Right now, to me, he doesn't have it figured out.
Yeah, it's got to change a little bit. And Zach, you're right. You can't ask Fox to do everything. I'm not saying, and the Kings, to be fair, they're not even getting out in the breaks. They only had 9 fast break points tonight against a team that will turn the ball over if you put pressure on them. What I'm saying is in the half court, when you initiate the offense, too much Sabonis, I think, at this point. We've seen that movie too much times, and it's not taking us where it needs to be. Fox in the last few games, you've seen what he's done with the ball in his hand.
Yep.
So give him the ball.
Yep. Zach, anything else?
Did
Zach's
we lose
frozen,
Zach?
I think.
I think
It's
we
all
lost
right.
Zach.
That's okay. Zach's staring at a meter on one of his monitors on a ramp, and he doesn't understand why it's been red for so long. So he's very puzzled.
How do I
caught
get
him
that
off guard.
fixed right now?
I could have told him. I could have told him why. But
love it. Absolutely love it. Andy, what's up tonight? You're on with Grant and Ryno.
Oh, first of all, I cannot wait for Grant's rant. I'm really looking forward to it. I genuinely am. Every time after a bad loss, I love just coming on here and hearing what you guys have to say, and I love to hear it. Honestly, although it sucks. I actually wanted to talk about something you guys kind of briefly mentioned. I honestly am like not happy with the coaching, Mike Brown. Like the first thing that comes to mind, I get he burned a timeout 30 seconds in the game with the challenge, which he won, which was good. But I mean, they went on a 14-0 run and there's no timeout called. And I feel like almost every game that we lose, the other team goes on a 10-12-0 run and he just refuses to call a timeout. And I feel like that happens too many times. Also, I want to get your guys' opinion on just like the coaching in general. For example, I'm watching the Clippers bench, and obviously Ty Lue is a really good coach. And there's guys I've never even heard of. There's role players. There's people who have been cut from other teams because they're not even good. And they just come in and they just light the Kings up. And I feel like the coaching, the scheme, they're able to perform really, really well. And then I also look at a team like the Warriors. They play 11, 12 deep with a bunch of role players who really haven't done anything in the past. They go to the Warriors and then they're an effective player all of a sudden. Like Buddy Hield's having the best season of his career. So I just look at our lineup with all the stars that we have, and I just am kind of just dumbfounded that we can only score 29 points in the first half, and our three percentage is so
well,
low. And I
I'm
just
going to
wonder.
say this. I'm going to say this, and it may not be popular, but I'm going to say it anyway. We're getting to a point. I always said I need about 20 games. We're not quite there yet. We're at 16, and the Kings are 500. There were many people in the offseason after the Kings, and when I mean many people, I'm talking about NBA quote unquote type people. Anonymous, but there were quotes.
Yeah.
Some executives, some members of the media, but mostly executives and scouts that were skeptical of how DeMar DeRozan would fit in with Sacramento. Now, there's no arguing that DeMar DeRozan is a very good basketball player. I'm not sitting here saying anything other than that. DeMar is a very good basketball player. But an NBA team is like a jigsaw puzzle. The pieces either fit, like Golden State, or they don't fit. And if you have a key piece of a jigsaw puzzle and you're trying to turn it around and it just doesn't quite fit, the puzzle is not complete. And I'm wondering when I look at this team at 8-8, if this puzzle doesn't have the right pieces, even though the pieces themselves look all beautiful and shiny and we can, but they don't seem to fit. I'm making that observation after 16 games, because I'll ask the question this way. Would you rather watch last year's version of the Sacramento Kings or this year's version of the Sacramento Kings?
I mean, I would probably say last year. This year kind of reminds me of when Kyrie and Luka first started playing together. Those first 5-10 games, it's like they didn't know who's going to take over the game, and they didn't know who to pass the ball to. And I feel like with DeMar, not only is the spacing an issue, just like I feel like when the game gets close, it's very, very hard. Like, are they going to feed DeMar? Are they going to feed De'Aaron? And then maybe they overthink it too much.
Yeah.
Were you going off of the entire year when you answer that question, Andy, or are you going off the second half of the year last year?
I mean, the second half of the year was a little bit different just because we were without Herter and Monk for so long.
Yeah.
And then also we're, like in the play-in spot, and we're losing a lot of close games because the free throws and all that stuff. Honestly, just from these first 16 games, I don't know if they're still trying to figure it out, but yeah, I mean, I feel like last year's brand of basketball was just a little bit more team eccentric versus I feel like now they rely so heavily on DeMar and De'Aaron, and I feel like if one of them is not going, the offense itself just completely stalls.
Yeah, I'm gonna, and I respect that. I'm gonna go with this year's because the fundamentals of this team are so much better. The basketball IQ has been bad at times, and when it is bad, it is awful. But then I go back to what Grant said, not enough from the bench. You go off of a 15-point quarter to end the game against Atlanta, and you follow it up with a 12-point quarter after 3 days off. To me, that's not players. I get players miss shots, but there's something more there. There's too much time there off for that to happen. Period. End of story.
Appreciate
me-
the call.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And we certainly invite the calls. Want to tell you that right now it is time for a rant with Grant, and it is brought to you by EDH Motors Automotive Reimagined. You get all the information by going to edhmotors.com. A long overdue new concept. No obligation to any franchise or big corporation. David and Adam have decades of experience in the automotive industry and just two people trying to do something different and better. Here's what they will offer. All right. New vehicle brokerage, vehicle consignments where they sell your vehicle for you. And of course, they can buy your car and will sell pre-owned vehicles, even your RV or boat. And you're going to take delivery at their beautiful auto lounge at the El Dorado Hills Town Center. No visits to the dealership, no dealing with high-pressured salespeople. You're not getting pushed into the finance and insurance office. It's a whole different experience. It is awesome. Go to edhmotors.com to get more information on El Dorado Hills Motors. EDH Motors Automotive Reimagined. All right, it's time. It is time. It was time 2 weeks ago. It was time 3 weeks ago. It was time opening night. It was time. The Kings did not lose the game tonight because of Kevin Huerter. But you cannot play shooting guard in the NBA, play 29 minutes, and score 0 points. Can't have it. You also have a situation where your bench is inept and terrible. Why don't you see if Huerter would be a better fit coming off the bench and put a guy in the lineup that you watched start for a while last year due to necessity in Keon Ellis, when you could also make a point that was arguably the best basketball that the Kings have played all year. Do I think Keon Ellis is a starting two guard in the NBA? No, I don't. But on this team, I talk about the jigsaw puzzle. He seems to be a better fit in the starting lineup than Huerter. Huerter's like me. He's a diehard New York Giants fan. But Huerter right now is looking like the Giants offense, which is a prevent offense. I can't have a prevent offense as my shooting guard in the NBA. Mike Brown, you better do something, and you better do something soon before this season slips away from you, because you are currently 12th in the West, and your schedule upcoming looks somewhat daunting. This lineup has too many flaws. And you can start with making one key change and see if, number one, it will help out your starters, and number two, will help out your bench. Stop waiting. Do it freaking now. And that's my rant for tonight.
You guys cut Danny Dimes because of that prevent offense.
Yeah, I feel awful for him, putting all the blame on him. But
yeah,
you know what? He walks out of the door with a check for $22 million or whatever it is. I think he'll be just fine.
He'll be well protected, better protected than he was on the field.
Yes, he will.
Dirk, what's up tonight? You're on with Grant and Ryno.
Hey guys, I don't know if you caught any of the. Well, you probably didn't catch any of the Mike Brown post game, but he had one person he wanted to heap praise on, which was Colby Jones, because of his ability to play with effort.
He played 6 minutes, which we. You know what? I'm
Grant,
glad you brought that up, and I'm going to let
man.
you
I
finish.
was getting there. That's
I know, but I'm sorry because I'm impatient and I'm a New Yorker and I can't help it. So watch me. All right, I just zipped my mouth. The floor is yours.
All right, so he was praising him for his effort, his presence on the defense, being available for the spray three, and then he's let it slip. and he played 5 minutes, which was seemingly all in the first half, if I recall. So he was saying other people should be mindful of how he was shooting when he was open. And I'm like, who are you directing that at? Keegan? It's not Herter you're directing that at, right? Because Herter wasn't passing up shots. He just wasn't hitting them. Is it Keon Ellis, who just had that huge game? If one thing that perplexes me is how we've got a bunch of ISO guys who can get their own buckets, yet we can't get, I would say, open 3-point shots, in my opinion. Why isn't Keon taking more threes? Personally, like, he's probably our best shooter. But
Hey,
I don't know. I feel like the system
Dirk,
is broken.
You're so spot on, Dirk. Dirk, you're so spot on with this comment. How you can get blown out 104-88 and praise a guy that played less than 6 minutes and then talk about the fact that he wasn't afraid to shoot the ball. He took 3 shots and he made 2 threes. You know what? I'm sorry. I don't need a comment like that. I don't need to be praising a guy that played less than 6 minutes in a 104-88 blowout. So you are 100% spot on. And I don't want to sound anti-Mike Brown because I'm not anti-Mike Brown. But that comment is uncalled for, in my opinion. You got a lot of other things to worry about than praising Colby Jones, who played less than 6 freaking minutes in a 104-88 loss. Because you know what? If you were that high on Colby Jones, if you thought he was playing that well, and you mentioned his minutes in the first half, why didn't you play him in the second half, Coach?
Exactly.
If you want to point him out for playing in the first half, most of his, I believe he played all of his minutes. Why didn't you put him in the fourth quarter? Why didn't you put him in the third quarter? I mean, isn't that a fair question? I would have followed up. Coach, why didn't you play him in the second half then?
Exactly. And I mean, we should be putting more on Mike Brown. I feel bad doing it because he's the second winningest Kings coach ever. We've got this winning team that has been winning, but I'm starting to feel like this team's been found out a little bit. Like, they're too simple, too many repeated mistakes with Sabonis. Why can't we stop that before it's like the third, fourth turnover with the same things happening every time? It's the only thing I'll say is, there's a lot of talk about Malik. We haven't been playing that good with Malik. Malik felt like, to me, he was just going to get it going because he was the guy when things got slow. Even if he wasn't shooting well, you'd still see him get 7-8 assists, and the offense could function without De'Aaron Fox. I have some faith when Malik gets back, this team will be a bit better. But we're trending bad, guys.
You know, Grant,
will be better. Go ahead, Ryno.
Grant, Dirk, this team's being coddled. It goes back to kind of what we were talking about before. It's looking too much at the little positives as opposed to looking at the things that you could do better. When has Mike Brown, do you guys remember a single time Mike Brown has called out a starter by name?
Nope.
A single time Mike Brown has ripped into his team in a post game.
It's his philosophy. He doesn't throw his players under the bus. You know, Michael Malone's got a completely different coaching style. He'll come right out and, criticize a player. Every coach has their own style. But you're right. It hasn't happened with Mike Brown. I think he actually, you used a perfect word, coddles. I think he coddles his players too much.
Yeah, it feels that way. And credit to Colby. Look, he's been going back and forth from Stockton. He's put up some big numbers in the last 3 games in Stockton. But to be talking about that, Jerk, it's a hell of a point, and it's a bad look.
Well, one last thing. I don't want to take up too much time, but Ryan, you and I have talked about Mike Brown doesn't seem to want to take control of an offense. He wants to just put it on his players, and maybe that's why there's so much coddling.
Let it fly, baby. Let it fly.
He's putting it all on them to make the decisions.
Good night, Dirk. It's a fabulous point. Great
Dirk,
call,
great
Dirk.
call, and I'm sorry I stepped on you earlier, my friend. Thank you very much.
Damn, Dirk, you got an apology from Nate?
I apologize to him. Like, he was making a good point, and I interrupted him, and I wanted to apologize.
Good job, Dirk. Dirk and I have some really good conversations. Guy knows his basketball.
I like Dirk. He's good, and I should have let him continue. So I do apologize.
No, good.
So 8-8, right?
Yep.
8-8 in the West, 12th in the West right now. And as I said, you haven't played any of the top 6 teams in the NBA yet. That will change here coming up on Monday when you take on Oklahoma City. But you're in a danger zone right now because you have kept on talking about the schedule and how you can make the argument that the easy part of the schedule is in your rearview mirror.
Yeah.
So that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, no, and sometimes this team rises to the occasion. I'm not trying to go Mike Brown here and coddle the audience and the fan base, but you're without Malik. You don't know how that counterbalances. This team's where they're at, yet they're still a +2 in the net rating at 500, which is far above anywhere they were last year. Grant, I guess it comes down to, are the expectations for this team too high? Have we come in way too high, expecting filet mignon, but we're getting rump roast?
No,
And we should have known that.
no, because I think the expectations was this Kings team was a playoff team. And I think when you look at their roster, you expect a playoff team, correct?
Yes, I would
All
agree.
right. So we'd have to clarify what you mean by expectations with the masses. Did that mean a top 4? I don't know many people that thought this would be a top 4 team in the West. Did you?
No, I think top 6 was the max
Yes.
that we ever talked about.
Yes. And I think that it was, and still is, by the way, a realistic expectation.
Yeah.
But right now, when you look at the schedule and you look at what's trending, and was it Dirk that made it, or was Zach? You are not going to win in this day and age of the NBA. You're not going to win if you don't shoot the 3 ball. It just doesn't happen. And I through 16 games, what have we found out about this team?
Can't shoot 3 consistently.
Right. So they're not going to win consistently.
Yeah. And I guess
and a guy that does make the threes, who is shooting lights out, plays for a team in LA that the Kings fans can't stand, named the Lakers, and Dalton Connect, who was sitting right there waiting for you in a position that you absolutely needed, that could flat out shoot the ball, and you took a guard. Now, Devin Carter may be very good. He may be very good, but your need and best available player looks to me like it was Dalton Connect right there, and you let him fly, which also makes it more disturbing. And then you pick up a Doug McDermott, who wasn't on anyone's roster a week before the team. Doug McDermott can't play. We've seen enough of Doug McDermott. I mean, he can't play.
I think Mike's relied on him a little too heavily. The fact that we saw Doug in there tonight, that was surprising. That one caught me off guard, Grant. And to your point really quick about the schedule, this is with an injured Western Conference. And I get the Kings have been injured, but the other teams that are above them have had just as many injuries. And the Dalton Connect thing, really quick. Devin Carter, like you said, might turn out to be a good player, a great player maybe.
Yeah.
We've seen enough good players without a championship window or a playoff window in Sacramento. And that's easily what you could play yourself into by passing Dalton Connect.
And, teams find ways to win when they have key players out. Not all the teams, but look at Dallas tonight. They went into Denver and beat the Nuggets without Luka Doncic. The Clippers, I don't know if you saw them play tonight, just in case you happen to be watching, they were without still Kawhi Leonard and their leading scorer this year, Norman Powell. And yet they destroyed Sacramento. So sometimes we use injuries as a crutch and as an excuse. Sometimes look at Phoenix. I think you could point to not having Kevin Durant because of everything he does for that team. But if we think that the Kings are going to get Malik Monk back for the next game, which they very well may, and that means they're healthy and they're going to be healthy for the rest of the year, you got another thing coming. They are going to miss players that are going to become injured, and you got to figure out a way to stay afloat. And right now the Kings are sinking. They're not staying afloat. They're starting to sink.
Yeah, the Pelicans. Have you heard of Jeremiah Robinson Earl?
Nope.
He had 19 for the Pelicans tonight, and it was only a 4-point game against Golden State. So teams that are hurt are playing competitive.
Well,
there you go.
Right now, the Kings are in a danger zone. Excuse me.
Bless you.
I'm allergic to the Kings. Their game tonight has made me allergic. Thank you. Their game tonight has absolutely made me allergic. So much so that I may have to move out of South Florida and go to Calusa. All right.
Yes.
Because Sunrise Landing has got it going on from Blazona Development. That's right. Just go to CalusaSunrise.com and get all the information you need on Sunrise Landing. Remember, no Mellorews, no homeowners in these beautiful models, 6 to choose from, various lot sizes, adjacent to the Calusa Golf and Country Club, access to I-5, Highway 45, Highway 20. It's Sunrise Landing. Again, get all the information at CalusaSunrise.com and check out Sunrise Landing.
That was an A+ transition.
Oh, thank you.
Well
Thank you very much.
done. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh man. So okay, come Sunday night, Jordy comes home. Gonna be a big game for him. You know that's
Yep.
circled. You got
Yep.
Ben Simmons coming to town, Cam Robinson coming to town.
Ben Simmons.
Hey, he's starting. He's
Okay, so
starting.
Ben Simmons does what does Ben Simmons do well? What's the one thing he does well? He
Run
plays
up and
defense.
he plays
He plays
defense
defense.
and he runs
He's
up
a
and
good
down the
defender.
court. Yes.
Jordy Fernandez is going to come in with a defensive game plan against a team that's struggling offensively right now. And it will be very interesting to see how this game goes. And you better not lose this game because the next night you're playing Oklahoma City and they're going to have 4 days off before the game.
That's a lot of time. You know, according to the Kings, when they get that much time off, they come out slow. So maybe Oklahoma City has the same problem, you know. Sorry, I said Cam Robinson. I meant Cam Johnson for the Nets. Really quick, are you expecting, would you think Malik Monk rolls back in Sunday night?
Based on the report that I had leading up to tonight's game, yes, I would think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
Now, here's the other aspect. Would you have reservations about him coming back on a back-to-back as opposed to playing on the second night of a back-to-back? I'm just asking the question.
It's a great question. Probably not. I don't think so because he's gotten this entire week of practice under his belt. They didn't have any they had one practice that had a little bit of contact, but he's been a full participant without contact. I feel like you should have your legs enough under you at this point. I think he should be okay. And if anything, Grant, you bring him back on a minutes restriction.
Yep.
A little bit of
And not only
Malik
that,
both
when
nights.
your ankle is your ankle. If it's good to play, it's good to play. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I mean, there's really no difference from playing in a game and practicing. There really isn't in terms of your ankle. You're not going 50% during practice. You're still cutting. You're still jumping. So if your ankle's good, it's good. That's the way I look at it.
Yes, and I've seen the comments in the chat. We'll leave that alone. No, you don't lose your NBA legs after 3 days off. That was said on the telecast tonight.
They're not sitting on their sofa for 3 days. They still are at the gym. They're still working out. They're still doing what they need to do. And they're getting treatment. So no.
Yes. So
unbelievable, huh?
Unbelievable. I did not see this one coming tonight. I'll tell you.
I did not. I thought they were going to win the game. I predicted them to win the game. When I heard that Norman Powell was not playing, who played very well in the win against Sacramento in Golden One Center earlier, I said, oh, they're going to win this game. Well, by the way, now all of a sudden in the West, you're down 2 games to Minnesota and 2 games to the Clippers when you think about possible tiebreakers at the end of the season.
Great point. It's an excellent point. Not too early to start thinking about that. I mean, what this means, and we've said it a couple times already, you better take care of business against the Eastern Conference. You cannot mess around against the Eastern Conference.
You better mop up and you better beat the teams in the East, which the Kings already have not been able to do enough. They've already lost to Toronto. They lost to Atlanta, right? I mean, you better be careful here. And here's the other aspect as we get towards Thanksgiving and the month of December. And Jerry talks about this all the time. If this team doesn't start playing much better at home, all of this is going to be moot. They won't make the playoffs. The Kings are 4-4 at home right now.
Yep. And that starts with them. They got to come out of the gate and create energy. You can't rely on the Golden One Center to give you the energy. You give them the energy. By the way, the Kings right now in the East, Grant, they'd be between the 4 and 6 seed with their record 8-8.
Interesting.
Crazy.
So you think you can apply for relocation and it will get accepted, or would you say that's unlikely?
Well, I mean, it's worth a try, don't you think?
It's worth a try.
Maybe if David Stern was here.
I think we've had enough pain for a night. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
We had enough pain.
We have, but we'll be back at it, smiling faces and ready to go and recharge, bringing the energy on Sunday night, starting with a pregame show.
6 o'clock tip-off, which means Ryno will be going head-to-head with Sunday Night Football.
Oh, yeah. Bring it, Chris Collinsworth. You ain't got nothing on me, Tirico.
And then Jerry joins us at intermission, and we will have the post-game show. Hey, everyone, enjoy your weekend. Try to keep the faith. 8-8, I know. The good news is tonight's game's over. You can move on from it. That's the good news. All right. Have a good weekend. Thank you for joining us right here on If You Don't Like That. Bye-bye.